Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Caroline Colas, and I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Today on the Positive Psychology Hour, a series that we do with the Whole Being Institute, curated by Phoebe Atkinsons, we're going to be discussing the metaphor mirror. Hope is alive in the poetry of you. The latest research in the field of flourishing says that well-being requires hope. Good things in life depend on it: joy, creativity, emotional resilience, and serenity. But what can we do when we've lost hope? In this interactive hour today, we're going to be using the metaphoric affect processing, or also called MAP, to take control with poetics and neurology. We'll create intuitive metaphor mirrors that reflect our difficult emotions, transform our embodied experience of them, and reveal practical steps towards change. Hope springs eternal in the metaphors of our many selves. No writerly talents are required, and I recommend that you get a paper and pen before we start. And now I'd like to introduce to you our guest, who is Melissa Carissimo. Right. And she has been on the show before. Melissa, let me go ahead and spotlight you. Hang on one second. Here we go, as I figure out my Zoom. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the call. And I understand you're in Italy and it's nighttime right now.
That's right. That's right. Dark where it's light for you.
Let's go ahead and get started.
I will jump right in. I'm going to share with you metaphoric affect processing, or metaphor mirroring, which I began developing about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago, in psychiatric and oncology units in our local hospitals, as a way to help patients first and then staff express difficult emotion without lapsing into negative thinking tracks, which was a particular issue, not for everyone, but for some patients and staff members. I've had the opportunity to do research and show real improvement among nurses who were working under high stress and the mitigation of burnout with this approach. And with psychiatric patients who have been able to express feelings in ways that consistently, even with lay listeners, have helped them to feel better in spite of the fact that they're talking about negative emotion. And that isn't always an accessible benefit to discussing trouble and suffering. I am going to, I've put actually at the top of the chat, I think, some information already for you about thinkers and researchers that have contributed to the codification of this process. Do you see that stuff in there, Caroline? At the top of that chat? I just want to make sure that got in there. And if not, I'll put it in at the end.
Let's put it in on the end. I don't see it.
I'll put it in on the end. Okay, great. No problem. Let me begin by sharing with you what the thesis of today is, and that is that hope is alive in the poetry of you, even when you feel as though you've lost it. And today we're going to find that hope with pen and paper by creating what I call metaphor mirrors. A metaphor mirror, like an actual mirror, can reflect your emotional self in the moment relatively effortlessly. We're actually going to use metaphor as a kind of a sixth sense. Cognitive linguists Lakoff and Johnson talk about metaphor as a neural phenomenon, and indeed it is. We're going to use metaphor not only to describe how we're feeling, but first in the beat before, to actually perceive it, to identify it intuitively. Identify, verbalize, regulate, and ultimately transform difficult feelings, bypassing our heads and in externalizing our feelings in a really productive way without engaging the rational self. And this touches on the work of Daniel Kahneman and rational and intuitive systems thinking. we use today something called sense metaphor, which allows us to actually embody not only a new sense of how we're feeling in the moment, but to also experience a shift in the emotions as we work with the metaphors that we create in order to then move toward the goal of a preferred well-being. The process is called metaphoric affect processing, and I really like the acronym because it's helpful as we think about how this works. Think of it in terms of Google Maps. When we're dropping into that application, we cannot get to where we're going unless we know where we're starting at. In a period of difficulty, in a period potentially of hopelessness, so often in the forest of stress or anxiety or depression, not only can we not see the forest for the trees, but often we can't even imagine, or indeed it doesn't even occur to us that there is a better state of being. And what we're going to see with metaphoric affect processing is that we're able to move outside of that darker place, a little up the hillside of that opposite mountain, and actually get a view of where we'd like to go. And because of the neurological phenomenon of sense metaphor, we're actually going to get to experience that destination that we're hoping for. And inevitably, we'll end up back in that forest because this is not a quick fix, and there aren't quick fixes. But once we've seen where it is that we want to go, it's easier to make connection with that place again. And once we've been there, a la Google Maps, it's easier to get back. It's easier to get back there once we've had that experience. Again, before we jump into our demonstration, and I have a dear friend to help me with that, and before you get to participate as well, I want to just talk for a minute about what hope is in the field, and what some of the obstacles to our feelings of hope there might be. We can think of hope as a combination of agency and pathways. So our sense of personal power plus our sense of options to help us move forward with that power. And among the things that can make it difficult for us to be hopeful is stress. And here's an image that I like of stress. We can feel as though we're inside the washing machine of our emotional selves, of the situations that surround us. And when we're in there with suds in our mouths and in our eyes, it's very difficult to see what's going on, to be able to plan, to be able to even imagine that there's another kind of situation. And what we need is a metacognitive repositioning. We need, as John Teasdale discusses, to change our relationship to those feelings, change our positioning. If we get out of the washing machine, we haven't changed the dirty laundry. We've still got all the same stressful elements, but we're able to look at them from outside, perhaps open up the door to that little washing machine, perhaps hang out some of that laundry. Another thing that can be an obstacle to our feeling hopeful is repetitive negative thinking, is that worry circuit of rumination. And what we need when we're experiencing this, and I saw this in oncology and in psychiatric wards, what we need is something to interrupt that cycle. And it's not easy to interrupt it rationally. What we're able to do with metaphoric affect processing is break that cycle open. And in 5 seconds, I'm going to show you what it feels like. Think for just a moment, without writing in the chat or saying anything out loud, how you've been feeling recently. A word, two, about how you've been feeling. Now, think for a moment about what the color of those feelings is. What color have you felt recently? That is, in a nutshell, metaphoric affect processing. Those are two very different ways of exploring your internal landscape. The first one was rational and cognitive. The second was sensory and intuitive. And those two different tracks make us feel differently about how we're feeling. A third obstacle is depression. And as we actually touched base with in last week's presentation with Gerard, one thought follows another. If the thought is negative, the one right behind it is more likely to be negative. This is a neurological phenomenon which creates a pathway across the landscape of our emotional self. And it gets deeper and deeper as we go forward with repetitive negative thinking. And what we need is the opportunity to create a fresh pathway, a pathway that's different. And we're going to see how that can happen with metaphoric affect processing. Here's another definition that I really like of hope: the desire for an uncertain something. And I like to look at that word desire. So if hope is desire for an uncertain something, what is desire? It's this strong tendency. It's a tendency toward and forward. It's a wish, a warmth, a move ahead to satisfaction, to a sense of connection. Uncertain, let's just take the certain part. So often it's exactly in our suffering that we feel certain of things. Happiness can often be delightfully embracing of what isn't known. We're like puppies just looking and bounding. In a moment of suffering, certainty is often present in how much we know that nothing's getting better. We're certain of what is negative around us. So what hope can be thought of is an uncoupling of the negative certainties that suffering can create from the desirable unknown future somethings. And this brings us to the poetry of you. And as we talk about the poetry of you, which you're about to experience, I'm hoping that you're feeling a little bit of that desire for something uncertain, because you're about to push forward into a future that you know nothing about in this moment. I'm going to invite my wonderful volunteer to join me, Henriette, who is a dear friend. Caroline, if you will help us to have her on the screen with me. Henriette has been present. Hi, Henriette. Since the beginning of this process. I'll invite you to unmute yourself, Henriette, so that we can have our dialogue. I'm seeing that you're breaking up a little bit, so I'm going to hope that that doesn't complicate things. Are you able to unmute? I see that you're still muted, Henriette. Are you able to unmute?
Muted. She should be unmuted.
Okay, there you are. I see her now. Yep, perfect. Okay, let's see if this will work. And Caroline, I'm going to invite you to help me if our audio connection doesn't sustain for the work. But moving forward, Henriette, and I'm going to ask all of you together at home with your pen and paper to participate as I propose a series of sense metaphor questions. I'd like for you to write down your own answers as I'll be writing down Henriette's answers to my questions as we go. The first thing I'm going to invite you to do, because metaphoric affect processing is something that we apply to difficulties, I'm going to invite you to think about an issue, something personal, a difficulty around which you're feeling you need a boost of hope. Something where you're feeling that hopefulness for you has obstacles between you and it. So I'd like for you to give a title to this metaphor mirror that we're going to begin to create that identifies what that problem is, what that issue is that we're going to mirror. Just a word or two. Henriette, I'm going to ask you for your title and I'm going to write it down.
First, I was thinking about limbo, but now I think I'm going to call it new chapter.
New chapter.
Because new chapter of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us just very briefly what the issue is that we're going to be mirroring today, that you're titling New Chapter?
Well, it's I'm entering a new chapter of my life. My kids are out of house. My mom is she's 96 and she's not gonna live for a long time. She was very close to me, always has been. And so this is a very important chapter of my life also, which is going to close very soon. And I'm just there and I don't know where to go. So I'm just like in front of, not even at a crossroads. I have this impression of being in a cul-de-sac. And and this idea of having this new chapter or new book maybe of my life in front of me scares me because it's like 60 and then it's,
Henriette,
what am I going to do with my life? It's just.
Henriette, I'm so sorry to interrupt. And Caroline, I'm going to get you involved on this. I'm afraid I'm not able to hear you. Our connection is really breaking up. And Caroline, I would love to, if it's possible on the fly, to work with a volunteer who has a stronger connection.
Sure. Why do you want to work with me or?
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
That would be wonderful. Unless, of course, Gerard, you want to jump in.
Gerard, do you want to jump in?
He'd probably just rather listen.
Susan.
But I could, but I don't want to steal your thunder. And I will be very interested to hear Caroline. But,
or Susan.
Wonderful.
Okay.
But if not, I would do it.
Okay. Susan Foti has also volunteered. Would you like to work with her?
Susan, that would be lovely. That would be lovely. That way, Caroline will leave you to your technical prowess.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Henriette, thank you so much for being available for this. And I'm so sorry that we can't continue with your work, but Susan, thank you. The Henriette's title was going to focus around this new chapter of her life and aging, where she felt like she needed a hope boost. Would you like to give us your title and just a sentence or two about what it represents?
I think insecure and lonely. I am coming up in 2 days to the 2nd anniversary of my husband's passing away. And I thought that I was pretty accepting. But then today, when my daughter sent flowers to honor the memories, I just immediately felt a punch in the gut, and also appreciated that it was beautiful that she sent flowers. So I'm going through a confusion.
Yeah, this is really lovely and such an important moment for you. And I want to just first share how grateful I am for sharing this with us and making yourself available to this co-creation with me. I'm deeply grateful. I'm going to invite everyone else to find their topics and their titles. You will follow along with me. And the next thing I'm going to ask you, Susan, is getting yourself in touch with that title that you shared with me and all the feelings that entails. I'd like for you to tell me what color those feelings are. In just a word or two, what color are those feelings?
Black and purple.
This is a sensory questionnaire. What sound, Susan, are the feelings? Letting go entirely of the color, but moving on to the sense of sound. What sounds are these feelings making?
A tightness in my stomach.
And what sound is that? Because we're looking for the sense of sound. Can you find a sound? That's a tactile sensation, and there will be room for that. But in your imagination, these feelings in your sensory self, what sound are you right now?
Danger, warning. I don't
Oh, a
know.
warning sound. What sound might a warning sound be?
A siren going off.
A siren going off. I hear that. I hear that. And that is una vertenza. It is a sign of danger, a siren going off. The next sensory investigation using these metaphors like a lantern across the landscape of our feelings to help us identify them. These feelings that you're describing to the touch, you can hold them in your hands, you can touch them with your palms. What do these feelings feel like to the touch?
Clammy.
These feelings are an animal, Susan. What animal are these feelings?
A bunny rabbit.
And what is this bunny rabbit doing?
Hiding.
These feelings that you're describing are a movement or a motion. What movement or motion are these feelings?
Withdrawing.
Tell me more about the physicality of withdrawing. What's happening as describe what you see. Withdrawing, you see it on a movie screen with the sound off. What is the movement that you're seeing?
Sneaking back into emptiness.
Slinking back. You have just created a metaphor mirror. And the next step in the process is that I'm going to recite it to you, if that's okay with you. Insecure and Lonely is the title. I am black and purple. I'm the sound of a siren going off, clammy to the touch. I'm a bunny rabbit hiding, withdrawing, slinking back. This is a poetic and sensory expression of those feelings that you shared with us about the situation that you titled for us. How does it feel to hear that read back?
Not as bad out loud as it is inside.
Isn't that fascinating? That's such a common reaction. And now we're going to do something called definitional commentary. And that is to look closely, word by word, at some of these elements. Now, this is a process that with one person or a small group typically takes 90 minutes. So we're doing the speed dating version of metaphoric affect processing here. But going back to the color you described, let's look just at the very first word that you chose, black. What is black? It's the absence of all color, isn't it? It's the very darkest of the colors on a spectrum. But this black has associated with it in your sensory perception of your feelings also a purple, which is also quite dark, but has been imbued with some red, an energy color, and some blue, very much a life color. This is already at work in your sensory perception of your grief. And then we have a siren going off. What is a siren? First of all, the pitch of it is very high. It's very disturbing. But what else is it? What else is a siren?
A warning.
It's a warning. It's also a signal, isn't it? It's a kind of a communication, isn't it? Not all sounds are communication, but a siren is a communication, which is just interesting. And as we do this thing that I call definitional commentary, it's very, very important not to wonder why you wrote siren or why you wrote clammy, because why doesn't matter. Because if we answer why, we simply talk about stuff we already know, which is all the bad stuff, because that's why we're doing this, because we're in a moment of suffering and we're thinking about all the bad stuff. What we do is unpack these aspects, which open our sense of perspective about the feelings that we're feeling stuck in. When we began, when you gave me your title, we were inside the washing machine, and now we're stepping out. This bunny rabbit, a bunny rabbit. You didn't say rabbit. You didn't say hare. You said bunny rabbit. This is a tender, sweet animal who's very soft. And this one is hiding. This is so evocative. And you know what? I don't have to analyze it. I feel it. I feel a bunny rabbit hiding in my bones because this is all very primitive stuff. And this withdrawing, this slinking back. This isn't walking back. This isn't striding backwards. This is slinking. What is slinking? Can you tell me what? I mean, if we opened up a dictionary, which is what we do with definitional commentary, we're looking at these things as if we were opening a dictionary without analysis. What is slinking?
It's kind of provocative, I guess. It's sneaky.
Yeah. It's a
graceful.
little sneaky. It can be graceful. Yes. Yeah. Slinking. Graceful and sneaky. That's wonderful and so evocative. That is precisely the point of this work, to evoke. Now we're moving very quickly on to the next portion of this metaphoric affect processing, and that is what I call revision. What we have just done is we have framed with our title the issue that we wanted to look at. We didn't look at our whole lives. We looked at something very clear and focused. Then we identified with metaphor sensorily. We verbalized by stating the metaphor, verbalized and then regulated emotion automatically. As you expressed after hearing it read back, it didn't feel quite so bad. We were already moving out of the more negative stage. And now what we're about to do is transform, again, as metaphor, these emotions that you're sharing with me about this issue. What I invite you all to do, and I'm going to ask you to do this, Susan, is look at the metaphor mirror you've just created and identify for yourselves the line that feels least hopeful. The line in your metaphoric reflection that feels like the biggest obstacle for you to hope. Susan, which line would that be for you? Withdrawing, the bunny, clammy to the touch, the siren going off, the black and purple. Which of those things is
I think
really needs to be changed?
Slinking back.
Okay, yeah. So that's where we're going to begin. We're going to begin with slinking back. And what I'm going to ask you is, if you were able to begin to move toward hope, begin to step out of those woods even a little bit further, move a little bit to a greater height on that opposite hillside, and look ahead toward that goal, that star. What does slinking back become? What does slinking back become?
Moving forward like I have in the past, that it's temporary.
I've turned off the sound on my video feed, but I see this moving forward. Tell me what it looks like as a movement. What's happening to this body that's moving forward? What is it? If I had to choreograph it and tell a dancer what to do, what do I tell the dancer? How do I tell them to move?
Feels light and graceful and sure-footed.
I see that. I feel that. And sure-footed. Now, letting go of the movement, but getting in touch again with the sensation that you're just describing. What color is that sensation?
Brilliant pink.
Brilliant pink. Letting go of the color, returning to the sensation that you're exploring. What sound is it making?
Trumpet sounding.
Now, what kind of a sound is that? That's such a particular sound, trumpets. What kind of a sound is it? If you had to tell somebody what they sound like who'd never heard a trumpet, how would you say it sounds?
Da 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 da.
Yeah, okay. Got it. Now you're touching this sensation. You're putting your hands on it. You can feel it with your fingertips. What is it feeling like now?
Grasp.
Didn't hear that? Susan, I missed that?
And a certain steadiness.
A steadiness to the touch. I missed the first word that you used.
Graspable.
Graspable. Oops. You've just created a revision. No, sorry. This sensation is an animal. It's an animal, the sensation that you're exploring. What animal is it?
Tiger.
And what's the tiger doing?
Singing.
What must a tiger's song be like? Que spectaculo. I love it. I love it. You've created your revision, and I'd like to read it to you. One thing that I'm really enjoying is your beautiful smile, and I've been seeing that beautiful smile as we've been working together on this revision. And it wasn't there as you were describing initially how you're feeling. But what we're experiencing here is this title that you began with, Insecure and Lonely. I am black and purple, a siren going off, clammy to the touch, a bunny rabbit hiding, withdrawing, slinking back. And I am brilliant pink. The sound of trumpets, da, 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 da. Graspable, a steadiness. I'm a tiger singing, moving, light and graceful and sure-footed. What's the feeling?
Wow.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Thank you for this. This is indeed wow.
And
Now,
the butterflies went away too in my stomach.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Now, again, speed dating version of metaphoric affect processing. The third phase of what we do is a little PS attached to the acronym MAP. And the PS stands for problem solving. And what I'm going to invite you to do, just what occurs to you, if anything, looking, hearing, brilliant pink, trumpet, graspable steadiness, tiger singing, moving light and graceful and sure-footed. Does anything practical come to mind that might be something to actually do or experience or look for that might move you toward that little star up there on that hillside? Anything at all?
Putting on some happy music and dancing around the room.
That sounds pretty cool. In your tiger costume, right?
Yeah.
Susan, thank you so, so much. That was really, really wonderful and on the fly. And I appreciate your bravery and your vulnerability and your strength. This was really, really lovely. And now what I'm going to do is invite you all, and you included, to breakouts. I'm inviting you to take 2 minutes each to read aloud your metaphor mirrors and revisions to each other. Again, this is the speed dating version. Read those aloud and then share with each other, as Susan shared with us, just a word or two about how it has felt to represent your feelings in this way and what kind of shift you experienced moving from the first metaphoric reflection of your emotional state in the moment and the movement into the revised, more hopeful mirror. I'm going to invite Caroline to help us into those breakout rooms. And each of you will have 2 minutes, I guess, for each room. Caroline, you tell us what that will look like.
Sure. First of all, I just want to remind everybody that you do not have to participate with your camera on. You can leave your camera off in your breakout room if you want to do that. And also to wait, I'll put people in a breakout room, but some people may join, some people might not. So I'm going to move you around so that you're in a breakup room with someone else. And if you decide you don't want to participate, but you want to listen in, we will have a session, a little breakout session in the main room as well. Can you put the category headings on the chat? Yes, that would be great. So Melissa, if you can put the questions in the chat, I think everyone can see the chat. We can do that so that everyone knows what they're doing and they can cover that. Okay, so let me, where did I go? Let me do your breakout rooms. And away we go. I'm going to pause the recording for right now.
I saw him in Amsterdam. I saw Vittorio Gallese in Amsterdam at a magnificent conference several years ago called Wilding the Brain. It was really, really exciting. Anyway, he's a genius, and his work definitely influenced my thinking about metaphoric affect processing, together with the whole list of people that I put into the chat. And it's really endless. Most recently includes Barbara Fredrickson and positive emotion, Dan Tomasulo and his hope work, Gallese and mirror neurons, John Teasdale and his discussions of propositional and implicational thinking. What we have just been doing is implicational and not propositional. Feel better is a proposition. Feel pink is implicational. What the heck is pink? What is brilliant pink? What does that do to me? And what does that entail? Kabat-Zinn, MBSR, also magnificent work done by Mark Williams at Oxford about associative thinking. He did a lot of work with suicidal thinking specifically, so the most challenging associative thinking. All of these things inspired and influenced my understanding of how come metaphor works. I began working with it because I come from a creative writing background and from an editorial fiction background from a long time ago. Research has shown what maps onto in a really exciting way. We have a few more minutes left, and I would love to hear from as many of you as would like to just say literally 2 words about what this experience has been. What was the shift that you felt? What's this experience been for you? Anybody? And I'll let Caroline tap on raised hands because I'm not a good chatter.
Sure. Anybody want to share?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see E. Levine raising her hand.
Sure.
Yeah, wow. First of all, the chats that you were talking about, we can't see. My breakout lasted well into you're starting to talk again. So, and those chats, many people are nodding. We don't see anything you put in the chat.
She's going to put them in again.
Okay. The other,
I actually put it in again. I see it. It's a very long blue chat. Concepts contributing. No,
we're not
no.
getting
It's maybe did you put it in just to one person, or do you?
No,
just try it again, Melissa.
Everyone. Okay.
But I have to say,
yeah.
I was just floored, having 20 years of chronic pain, and my title was Pained, Worried, and Overwhelmed. And I did the animal stuff, and I did all the things you had. And I was grateful I was in with Susan, so she had already done hers. She just wanted to hear mine. So I could take the time to pick the revision. And wow. I was a stuck deer and mired in pain and tightness and all that stuff. And instead, I could get my feet out of the stuckness and find a path. You know how in the woods there are these paths that other deer make, that I don't have to reinvent. I could find slowly, instead of rushing like the March Hare, which was part of the other movement, that I'm rushing through my life pressured. This deer could slowly get unstuck and walk, find a path. This was quite shocking to me that I could do this.
Awesome.
I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled. That's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
It's really great.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm going to tell it to my PT who's coming in an hour.
Wonderful, wonderful. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's brilliant. I think there is more than a technique. It's your personal skill. You have a gift. You have a gift, and your voice is very soothing, and everything is very good. So we could think that to do that, it needs to be you. but I was able to do it also very quickly when I was working with Lorraine. So it shows that it was very quick, speed, 2 minutes. So what you ask me to do is what we call for us the red door and the green door. To see
Yes,
the red door, and if there is a red door, show me the opposite of the red door, the green door. So
That's
now
right.
you give me a magic wand. Instead of looking at my poor me in this world, it's a version of looking at, with a magic wand, how it could
Yes.
be in a magic world. And
Yes.
that takes me out of my problems right now.
Gerard, not only does it take you out of your problems, but it allows you, because of metaphor, it allows you to physiologically, and Vittorio Gallese will get into this
Fly.
this
It
evening,
helped me to
Caroline.
fly
It
instead
actually
of,
allows you to feel it. You feel
yeah.
it, which is,
So it was very,
Yeah.
because it's very visual, and you end up where you look. So you look at the color, you
Yes.
look at the sound, you look at, and it takes you there because it transports you. And then
Yes.
when you have been there, basically
Exactly.
what you do is a role play. When you make a role play, and for example, I become a butcher in that play, I have been a butcher in my life. If I am a
That's
lawyer,
right.
for the few minutes I am a lawyer in that role
Yes.
play, I have been a
Yes.
lawyer in my life. I will not be maybe a good lawyer, but I have been a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you
The
experience
thing that's,
something that you could not experience from the point where you
that's right.
were, but you can
That's right.
experience by taking you out of the box.
Yes.
It's very good.
What I
I
propose to
enjoy
you,
it. I like it. I enjoy it. I like it. And now the main question is, how is it? It's a dirty word. How is it? How can we? How is it possible to learn it through a book?
It's trained. It's trained. You know, it makes me think very much of the model of mindfulness. Real training in mindfulness is not done in a book. It's done by sitting with a really talented
in your
practitioner.
Flesh, by doing it.
In your flesh, exactly. It's an 8-week course,
brilliant.
and
it's great.
It's brilliant
because
and very
everybody
simple
had a
and
problem.
brilliant.
Everybody honestly recognized the problem, even myself. And then we were able to look at it in a different way than a problem.
Yes.
So
and
in a
share it.
positive way.
And share it. The empathic.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
What was the program you
else?
mentioned tonight? What were you talking about tonight with Caroline?
Caroline, you share this wonderful opportunity that you've got going. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
I'm going to be over at the Italian Institute in New York City, moderating a panel on art and the brain. And we are going to take two of those panelists that will be here on Thursday at the JCC virtually. And I will put in the chat if you want to. We'll be discussing that. But the in-person event is at the Italian Institute, and Victor Gallese will be there, and several other neuroscientists as well as artists will be talking about science and craft and art and how it connects us, which Melissa has so beautifully demonstrated, how it connects us with our humanity and the empathy circuit as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And then I look forward to really expanding on that discussion on Thursday. It'll be at noon. So if you want to jump on to that call, I think it's $10 or something, and if you can't make it, there'll be a recording. But that's something I'm very fascinated with. And what's really interesting about it is that during times of crisis, i.e. 9/11, and of course this pandemic, the art therapist that we'll be interviewing has said that all of her art classes are sold out. People are looking for art, they're looking for metaphor, they're looking for a way to explain the unexplainable, a way to access, what they can't even fathom and conceive of, and get a different point of view, right, than the one that they're sort of currently stuck in. So this was a beautiful warm up. And I said to Melissa, I said, I'm spending day with Italians today because I'm spending time with her, calling all the way from Italy. And then, of course, over at the Italian Institute with all of these wonderful neuroscientists. But I will keep you informed. And next week, we have Mega is in the house. And that's going to be an exciting, she's back for, I think, her 20th time or something like that. She is going to be discovering joy during challenging times. So please make sure that you sign up for that. I know, did anybody have trouble logging on today? Was anybody? Okay. No, yes, no. All right. So I'll look into that. But do join us again. And Melissa, thank you so much. Gerard, thank you for being with us again as well.
How do we
Yes,
follow up
thank
on
you
this mapping
all.
stuff? Is there a link to something, an article on
Um,
specifically?
I've just put in my, I'm hoping my website address is on my face. Do you see my website address? Maybe it's covered up by my
Here it is,
by my name.
metaphormap.com. Right to me. It says you put it in the
Metaphor
chat.
mirror. I think I put metaphor mirror. I hope I did, because
Yeah.
if I put metaphor map, that was wrong. Metaphormirror.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's in the chat.
Metaphormirror.com.
And Melissa,
Yes.
please send me
Yes,
whatever
ma'am.
it is that you wanted, to all the links or anything, and I will send it out with the recording.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Okay, perfect. Yes, it does indeed.
All right, you
It does
guys.
indeed. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so much. Feel
participating.
free to unmute and express your appreciation or put that in the chat. Bravo. Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you can see this, Melissa. Yes.